So let's get into some WoW stuff. This is actually important. Um, it is it is quite long. Let me check. It is quite long. It's fine though. It's really important. It's really important. It will reshape World of Warcraft in a way because it will like make everything within World of Warcraft relevant in a certain way. So this is interesting, and this will give a leeway. So this will give a reason and offer like a logic to actually like revamp or reuse certain assets that were lost in time because the expansion passed and no more expansion. So yeah, let's check this out.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking player housing. The inside
Wow.
and the outside. But
Okay, this looks already really
we're not
beautiful.
just looking, oh no, we are talking about how it feels to actually play it. Because Internet, I have played it. Myself and a handful of other creators were invited to Blizzard's office in Boston. We were invited to interview lead housing designer Jesse Kolenchek, producer Rachel Basone, take part in a big round table discussion, and also get our hands on the feature itself. So I've played with housing for a good 4 or 5 hours. I've made this absolute masterpiece, I've talked to the devs, and I'm going to tell you and Evertel all about it now. What it's like, what's there, look at this amazing new footage, and genuinely just have a very exciting, very revealing time. So join us as we
It looks really clean. It looks really clean.
lift the lid on WoW player housing. Okay, go.
Okay, Tally, so I'm hugely jealous.
Good.
Mission accomplished. Before we get into the nitty gritty, I need to know, what is player housing like? Is it everything we have wanted it to be?
I can say right now, okay, that player housing is the biggest, most important, best feature that WoW has maybe like ever had. Like since raids or Mythic Plus or something like that. This is a complete game changer.
And I will tell you why, because like they have been like talking about like player housing for a while, because it allows you, especially with the philosophy that they adopted. So basically, the idea is that like everything that you've done in the game, you can basically it becomes a reward that you can reuse and utilize in your housing. So you killed Onyxia, the first from vanilla Onyxia. You can have her head like hanging, like you finished a raid, you completed a campaign, you are exalted with like a obscure reputation. Well, you get to fucking like have something to show for, and not just like the fucking like success basically like what is it called uh achievement for page of your character. And this is really important, and this also like connects with all of the the other expansions, like I said, because like it allows you to, for some players that will build their houses, that will go after certain achievements just because they really want this specific item or this specific like stuff to and it's only available in this expansion. And I think that like overall the gaming cycle, because like when it comes to gaming, you have to understand that like gaming is about creating like cycles within cycles. So basically, to give you an example, within WoW you have like your daily you have your daily quests, objectives, then you have your weekly quests and objectives, then monthly quests and objectives. And they think about that, the game designers. They think about like, what do you do in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, right? And basically, like, this allows you to have to kind of break the cycle in a way by having a cycle that is like overarching every other cycles, because it takes from every cycles to allow you to get stuff for your player housing. So this is really a brilliant idea. I actually really love
That
this.
actually is incredible.
And I think that like maybe the next step would be a guild player housing. That will be like, this will be like the greatest, because a hub for like for guilds, it will be fucking awesome. Like, but this is in the future. Like, I won't go too further, but like this is already fucking awesome.
Like, my mind was absolutely blown. You know, when you're given like access to this, you know, special new thing, my first reaction is to try and break it, right? So I turned around immediately and walked out the front door to see if I could see the outside, stuff like that. I was going through trying to find secret bits of the UI that gave things away, which I did, by the way. You'll see in the interview. I'm very much like a YouTuber. I want to find secret stuff that I'm not supposed to find.
Of course.
But I have to say, within just a few minutes, I was completely caught up in making this interior and this room and actually being in it. And it's so detailed and it's so vast. It can be incredibly simple if you want it to. It can be incredibly detailed if you want it to. The possibilities, this sounds so cliche, but it's true, are endless.
I wonder if they will show the interface that will that allows you to build. Like, this is what I'm curious about.
I guess the best thing I can possibly say is, if you have always wanted player housing in WoW, I don't honestly see any way that this system that I've played doesn't meet your expectations.
Wow. And this is even from just an early build.
Yeah,
right?
because it hits every single box.
What was it like? What was the setup like? What were you allowed to do?
Well, we were placed in a kind of a half-made house. Some of the rooms were decorated to kind of get us started, but then loads of the rooms off of that main room weren't, and we had free reign just to go in there and do whatever we wanted. So we were able to kind of explore the menus and play with placing things. All the shots we've seen of player housing so far have been of like this quite rustic horde or alliance-y kind of look. So the first thing I did was I wanted to change all of that. You can see in these pictures here, you've got like the wooden floor. That's like the standard wooden floor that you start with, and the kind of like the very rustic beams. It looks very alliance-y, doesn't it? It looks kind of very tavern-y on the screen now. Well, it's super easy to change all that. You just click on the floor and then you go to styles, and you've got like folk, which is the alliance one. You've got kind of rustic, which is the horde one. But then you've got a night elf one. You've got a blood elf one. So I was like, yeah, I'm clicking on blood elf straight away. And it instantly changed, as you'll see in my own room, to like these smooth white blood elfy kind of stone tiles, and I did the same on the walls. I clicked on the wall bits and I changed those to blood elf. You could do it on the ceiling, the staircase that I had, that I built my little nook underneath. Instantly, you're able to change the entire style of the inside into whatever racial style you want, or like aesthetic you want.
That's really cool. That was one of the questions I had after seeing some of these original images and footage, because like you say, a lot of them look like taverns. It's kind of a wood look and feel, but I'm like, hey, what if I want like a straight up cohesive night elf style from top to bottom?
We can do that for you. It's all there. And that's even before you get into the decor on the inside. These are like the very building blocks that you're making the room out of.
Amazing.
And then in the actual decor menus themselves, which I'll get into in a minute, but you can search. I literally just put in Silvermoon and got loads of blood elf things that I would fit naturally into my blood elf room, but you're not limited to any of that, obviously.
Okay, amazing.
And I saw interior pieces that were themed around Draenei stuff, Tauren stuff, Zandalari troll stuff, night elf stuff, goblins stuff, human stuff, orc stuff.
That is really
And this is actually one of the rewards that like Blizzard didn't have to work a lot. Like for player housings, it did have to work a lot. But when you have an IP, so when you have like a game that is running for so long, you have so much how is it called? So much like, what's the fucking term? Well, so much like basically items to work with because of the best expansions. that you can easily, actually, if you take the time, easily add them up, like because you have you created already so much, and this is actually really cool. Because like on the sometimes it's good. It's good that the designers don't have to fucking like create a whole new like to reinvent the wheel for us to enjoy some experience, because the content is already here. Is it created enough content for them to be able to just recycle it to give it a new life?
Exciting to hear.
So the first thing I did was switch everything to Blood Elf, but then the second thing I did was I found floor panels, floor kind of like platforms, which you can put anywhere. So we've got a great image here. Can you see that kind of stepped roof?
Yeah.
Above the bookcases in this demo? Well, those are made from individual beams that have been placed in a kind of a step. So the roof to that room is just like level and square, and the designer has just like put in individual beams to make it into a stepped roof. And I took a bunch of these and I stuck them to the wall because I just wanted to check, and I just made a jumping puzzle all around the room. Some were attached to the wall, some were just floating in space. I just want to see if I can jump around here.
Yeah, there was like private servers that were just about like jumping, and basically like jumping. It was like it's kind of like this like adventure where like you need to. It's kind of like a challenge, just like platforming challenges that people used to do on these private servers. It was actually kind of fun when it was well made.
Here and like make a little platformer sort of thing. And I learned two things. I learned that yes, you can do that.
Nice.
And I learned that I'm terrible at jumping in World of Warcraft. And
Who
I found
isn't?
the entire thing was an incredibly frustrating experience. I quickly moved on from that. But you can.
So, in terms of the edit build mode and your character actually being in the house, is there kind of like a seamless transition, or is your character always in there, or do you kind of like pan out and then?
Oh no,
build
you're
and
in
zoom
there,
back
kind of walking around the house
The whole time?
and placing things. Yeah.
Your character has
Okay.
to place things physically in the room.
Not as in I have it in my hand and I have to walk over here and put it. No,
Yeah.
your character is in the room
Yeah.
at all times, which is really good for scale and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yeah,
But no,
actually.
when you select something from a menu, you are moving it within the 3D
And
space.
then okay.
To the detail of placing individual goblets.
Okay, so this is cool and this is interesting. It's better for you to do it to create your player housing through your character, just like in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, rather than having like a fucking sandbox interface in which that is really cold and that is really like kind of like not lifelike. When if you have your character, it's better. Like doing like creating your player housing experience through your character is better than creating it through like a menu.
And books on bookcases exactly where I wanted them to be. And you have the option of having everything kind of snap in to a grid in basic mode, which particularly for putting things on shelves makes it really easy, and you can just kind of pop them in there. And these books aren't all individual. Some books are individual, which you can slot in there, but then some decor options are like rows of books,
Of course.
kind of pre-made, which you can slot in there as well.
So anything can go anywhere,
Yeah.
and it can be as big or small as you like it.
Within like very, very generous perimeters.
Okay.
So like you can make a chair kind of proportionately, about this size. Right?
How big can my biggest chair be?
Pretty big. Like you can get literally lost in it, right? Now, at the moment, the chairs lose functionality when you try and sit in them if you change the scale, okay? But you can shrink them down and blow them up. And that goes for anything. The rooms themselves come in a bunch of different shapes and different sizes as well,
Okay.
but also different levels, because of course you can go upstairs and have an upstairs. I think you can have like up to 3 levels at the moment. There are pre-built staircases which are part of some of the rooms that you can pre-select, but of course you can build staircases out of basically anything as well.
So there's this incredible setup here with your like library tower, right? Complete with cobwebs and these multiple levels.
This room is built from one of the block patterns. This is built from the same block room that my Blood Elf room that we're looking at is also built from.
It's nice that you have those pre-selected options, because I can imagine, my fear of going into player housing is like you get your little square room and then you put a bed and a bookcase and a nightstand in it. And you're like, what else do I do? But them giving you these kind of pre-made options that you can then tinker with and play with, that opens up like so.
Yeah, pre-made is something that helps a lot of players. Do you know why you're not like a fucking like interior designer? Because you didn't choose to. Do you know what the fuck what the fuck it takes to build a beautiful home? Being an interior designer, or really take the time to fucking think about it. Okay, so yeah, it's great that you have like basically like pre-mades, um yeah, like something that you can like already build yourself from. I agree with that.
So much more creativity, I think.
Absolutely.
So when you had a look in the interface at all of the things you could choose there, like filtering them by style, using keywords from the metadata,
everything was kind of separated out into, there was like literal building stuff, which is your platforms and your columns and things like that. And then you had lighting. Each category has like subcategories.
I'm wondering what's the outside? Is this like a garrison, or like can you have neighbors?
So you went into lighting and you had lamps, you had wall hangings, you had sconces. I mean, you can see some of the different options in this picture here. You can see the hanging chandelier type things coming down. You can see like lanterns on the staircase, and you got the Zandalari troll lantern there as well. Kind of candelabras.
Open fires.
And different candles. Every bit of furniture that you have, it has multiple uses. It has its intended use, and then it has all the different things you can do as well. So, for example, Jay was showing us, he did like a live room build as a little example for us. And he was like, what should we do? Let's make a restaurant. And so he literally made like a diner, like a Pandaren diner. He got out all these Pandaren tables.
Cool.
He put these candelabras on them like that. And they didn't look freestanding anymore. And then he made like a whole oven. And what he did was he used like a kind of a fireplace grating. And he put that down like a kitchen cabinet sort of thing. And then he got, it was like a crate with an iron top on it. And he like clipped that through the table. So only the top of the crate was showing through the top of the table, which made the stove top. And then he took a bunch of barrels, which had like round tops, and shrunk them down and clipped them through the top of the stove top as hobs. And it was just incredible. It was just amazing. And you can create basically anything you want to. I looked across at the guy who was designing his room next to me as I was making this beautiful silver moon kind of reading nook. Nice. And he just had Onyxia, you know, Onyxia's head?
Yeah.
He just had that on a spit. He got like a fire, an open fire. He put that down. He found like some steel frame thing and he put that on. And then he just put Onyxia's head on it. And he just had Onyxia's head on a spit.
Incredible.
There was someone in our group who had made like a wrestling ring. In the room, and they put out like audience seats and stuff as well.
Brilliant.
And they made this wrestling ring. It wasn't conceptual. It was like obviously a wrestling ring. That is what it is.
So you see all these really nice animated features, like in the lighting, like lanterns are flickering, the cobwebs are like wafting in the wind, and then there's this amazing kind of like flying book feature in the middle of this room as well, which I love. Were there some really cool like animated ones there that you got to see?
Yes. So there was lots of animation on the lights, although not all of them had been enabled to animate. Not all of them had been enabled to actually illuminate either.
Okay,
but they will be. Yeah. I think most of the lights are going to be interactive, so you can click on them to turn them on and off as well.
Oh, this is
I know
cool.
You definitely do that with the candles too, and the fireplaces and things like that. There are loads of items which have inbuilt interactivity in them as well.
That was going to be my next question.
There's items that we found in the catalog, stuff like a guillotine.
No.
It's called the Gilnean Problem Solver.
No.
Yeah, and it's a guillotine, and obviously you can interact with it and goes vroom, like that. Okay, it's absolutely amazing. There are.
Do you think that's going to make it to the final build?
1,000,000%. Yeah. Why would you go to the problem of making it if you didn't? There's a literal dark iron mole machine.
Yes.
There was this amazing bookcase, and one of the devs came up to me and was like, "Hey, you know that's interactive?" And I was like, "Ooh!" So I came out of the menu and I clicked on it, and it like opened up, and it was a secret door. Oh. There's like goblin kind of machines that you click on, they start spinning round and things like that. In fact,
cool.
there is a whole like interactive section in the menu where you can specify and find those things. And something which is really interesting, which I ask about in my interview, most of the
let me just check one thing real quick. Right.
Books are just like books. They're items, right?
Yeah.
They just are for decoration. One of them I noticed was interactive. And when I placed it, I could click on it, and it was the Story of the World tree from Belemeth, that book that we found in Belemeth. Do you remember?
Yes.
Which we've done literal lore videos about, okay? But it was that. And so you just clicked on it, and it opened up your reading pane.
Yeah.
Just like if you clicked on it in Belemeth, and you could read that book. And you can place that book in your bookcase.
In your library.
In your library.
As it were.
So you're going to have to watch my interview where I asked Jesse if that's going to be a thing. And it's going to be like, when we click on a book in the open world, will that enter our catalogue? And then we can place that in our house, because that would literally solve a thing that I personally have been asking for since the beginning of time. And so if you're going to have to watch the interview.
I will.
But
Yeah, this will be interesting, and give us second breath to like these like readables that like no one reads except, well, me and a couple other people that are mega fans.
I have to now.
Potentially, all of these bookcases could be filled with literal interactable books that you've collected through the world.
Get
and that you can
out.
be like, which book shall I read today? And then literally click on it to interact it. I did notice other items that were marked as being interactive, but that I couldn't interact with. So lots of crates and stuff that got like the interactive symbol over them.
I noticed things like weapon racks.
Great one. Another thing
there.
I asked about
Yeah.
in my interview. So
great
the,
minds.
the weapon racks, there was two. There was one which was a floor standing one, as you'd imagine, and there was a wall one as well. But none of them had weapons on them, which is a bit useless for a weapon stand, right? So yeah, I do ask about that in my interview as well.
Of course. Also looking about, there's loads of like kind of paintings and artworks on the wall.
I would say there's a selection of about 8 or 10 in the menu that we were playing with. I would expect there to be lots more when this feature goes live. One of the things that all of this was about was not just to show us this thing, but to steal ideas off us as well, right? And another idea that I had was, wouldn't it be great if you had the option to create a self-portrait of your character?
How could you not?
Well, I mean,
how could you not?
Exactly. Your player
This is a good
portrait
idea.
already appears in your health bar in the standard game
Right.
interface. All they'd have to do is put like a little filter over it or something to make it look painty or whatever. Or maybe you'd have a choice of filters and you could create a portrait of yourself. The devs were incredibly open to these ideas and jotted a lot of them down, and were like, well, now you mention
really
it, actually,
promising.
that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, I have to talk about this frame because there's a lot going on here that I'm really interested in this kind of like cozy hoard like bar space.
Yeah.
We've been talking about interactable items. Can you cook and or eat food in your house? Will you be able to like level up your cooking?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, so this is really interesting. We talked about this in the round table. How much functionality is there going to be in these things? And it was made very clear to us
Okay,
that there wouldn't be a thing.
This is really important because as much as like player housing is nice to watch, is nice to interact with, it's nice to have a house. If you cannot like really interact or do progress within like your own house, well, it takes away a lot of purpose and takes away a lot of fun. So yeah, if I understood correctly, you can even like use your basically have like your profession like well, basically your forge and or your benches to interact with. So but we'll see let's see.
Like a bank.
What I'm curious is that like, since this will be probably in the game, what else can you interact with in your house?
Or an auction house. This is their philosophy. There's nothing that you get from auction house. Very clear to us that there wouldn't be a thing like a bank or an auction house. This is their philosophy.
No bank,
There's
no
nothing
auction house.
that you get from housing that is going to help you in other parts of the game, right? So there's never going to be, I have to do this because I play Mythic Plus and this is going to help me in Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
Mythic Plus will award stuff for player housing,
Yeah.
but you'll never need to do player housing to optimize yourself.
progress
for Mythic
in the
Plus.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
This
They
is
do
a
seem to be
good
quite open
philosophy.
to sort of interior personal functions. The example Jesse uses, basically, if it can be done with a toy, it's probably okay to put in a house.
Ooh,
so
okay.
there are like barbershop toys where you can, change your appearance and stuff like that. There are
Mailbox toys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There are like little mini game toys, a cooking fire, a mailbox. I've just noticed this isn't on the outside footage that we've got to use in this video, but something I have seen on outside footage is a summoning stone outside houses as well. There is that kind of functionality there, but I think they really, really want to avoid stuff like the mine, something like auction house, bank. As I said in the roundtable, I feel like there might be an argument for having that stuff in neighborhoods, but not in individual player houses.
What about dyeing and color changing?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, when people talked about dyeing and color changing in the information that we've had in Blue Post before, I was like, yeah, cool, but it's not something I'm interested in at all. It's so awesome. You have no idea. It's so great. Like, basically all of the new assets that have been made for player housing, and that will be basically every asset ever made in the game from now on.
Okay, so this is great because the interface, it will change over time, but it is when it comes to like fucking coloring and stuff, it's important for to have enough choices, but also to be simple enough. Choice paralysis is something that like happens a lot, and if you have like the whole fucking like a specter of color, people don't know what to do with it. But if you have like something simplistic like this is the right balance.
Okay.
Because whenever designers make assets, they're gonna make them for player housing in mind. This is one of the reasons why it's actually quite hard to put the older assets in. They intend to put all the older assets in, but like a lot of them don't have like a bottom. Because they were never made to
or
be
a back,
or a back.
Yeah.
They're never made to be seen in a 3D spec. Like they're going to be placed quite specifically, right?
Yeah.
So in much the same way that when they enabled flying, they had to go and put roofs on a lot of stuff. With the old assets, they quite often have to go and put like a back or a bottom on them. But all of the new stuff is going to be dyeable, so many different shades, and obviously all these going to be made from alchemy and from different ingredients and sold on the auction house and stuff like that. And before and you can go through all the colors of the dyes that you have in your inventory and see a preview of the item, and before you click on dye, it's like, this will use one of your dyes. You are spending resources on getting these things. So you see this like kind of like fireplace thing in the
This is also a good thing that like you actually use active resources to build your house. It's like it's kind of tedious, but this actually like this type of tedious is actually good, a good type of tedious, because it allows you to actually keep playing the game and not feeling like you're outside of WoW and playing actually like a WoW-like game, because like your resources are still taken in account and what you do outside of the game still matters when you are within your territory, your house.
just above my head on this photo here. Like, so customizability wise, color wise, you'd be able to change like the color of the metal, you'd be able to change the color of the wood, and you I think in this case you'd be able to change the little color of the blue accent as well. So how awesome is that?
Is there anywhere you could put like written things? Got to put like a live, laugh, love somewhere.
Okay, so this was
actually like, in this house we do not farm crests in the house.
This was people getting a real insight into your own personal style.
Yeah.
They were like, it would be nice to be able to have someone's house name or something outside, or because this was brought up when I brought up the player portrait thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we thought about letting people make their own signs and stuff, but
problem is that like people are act like children, and they will write the most heinous and disgusting stuff if Blizzard allow it.
You can't let people do that.
I know. It's just something that's instantly going to be abused.
Well, exactly. And we were talking about the idea of maybe a guest book that you can put, that people can sign if they come and visit your house and things like that. And again, it was like they might just be able to print their name or something like that. It seems unlikely that people will be able to actually leave messages.
Is there any correspondence between what your house looks like on the inside and what it looks like on the outside?
No.
None.
No.
So I
In
could just
fact-
have a room full of windows
Yeah.
and that won't register on the outside at all.
So some things I've managed to ascertain from like talking to devs and stuff is there will be a loading screen when you go through your front door.
Okay, makes sense.
So neighborhood's a bit more up in the air at the moment with all that stuff.
Okay.
But when you go through your front door, there will be planned at the moment a loading screen. So it's not going to be like a delve where you just walk straight in. And the reason for that is because it is the word I heard mentioned a million times by devs, which you will never hear them mention in any official correspondence for obvious reasons, is TARDIS, right? This idea that it's just completely different, right?
Okay.
So where you place the windows, it's not like they're going to appear on the outside wall or anything like that. Another interesting thing that came out of my interview, which you definitely watched, is that the quality of light that comes through the windows
Yes.
doesn't change.
Okay.
So it won't like represents the server time or
Day-night
anything
cycle,
like that. Yeah. What Jesse said is it gives you control over how a certain space looks. You don't want to put a window in and achieve a certain type of light for the desired effect that you want, only for that to change.
Yeah.
I think it would be
Yeah, it's a shame that like you don't get to see nighttime in your house, but like at this point maybe it will change with time.
nice to have maybe some windows that do that.
I would like a customization option for the window when I put it in to say, what type of light do you want coming in?
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at the room you made in just a moment, but I have to talk about exteriors first. I have so many questions.
It's so great.
It looks incredible. Okay, so first off, there are loads of people wondering about. Is this just like kind of a fun Blizzard thing?
Okay, well, let me talk you through like our experience of the exterior.
Yeah, tell me about it.
We had all the footage that you're seeing here was basically just on a video that was playing on a loop on big screens throughout the room where we were doing our interior stuff. So it was like
Just boring into your mind.
yeah,
It's
totally,
being
and
absorbed.
and it was all these pictures of the interior, but also of the exteriors as well. And of course, this is the first we've seen of it, like in-game assets of an actual neighborhood and what it's going to look like. And so we were like, "Are we going to get that footage?" And someone said, "Yes."
It's like I can like I see the exterior and I'm like, where the fuck the player housing in WoW would be the most fucking messed up. I'd say like the Firelands, like the Ragnaros raid. Like inside the Firelands, you have your little house just like this, or in the Nether, like or let's say next to the fucking like sword of Kil'jaeden. Like that will be fucking funny to have your house next to the fucking sword of Kil'jaeden Silitus. Like, let me think of a last one that will be really fucking funny to have Black Rock Mountain. Like anywhere near Black Rock Mountain. Like
And we were like, "Whoa!" So just like the idea that we can sit here and watch this is stunning. I want to say I've also seen other pictures of exteriors which we
or any on the or Nyalotha, right? So the sunken city, like basically like next to the sunken city, you have your sunken house.
haven't been given, right? So I've seen a render of the Horde neighborhood as
Yes, I
well.
was gonna ask.
And the thing that I would mention is how interesting the biomes are. Okay, that
Okay.
you're not getting in this. So there is lots of different styles within the neighborhood, and they're pretty big, the neighborhoods as well. I think Horde players at the moment, there is a worry in their mind that it's going to be just a dusty Durotar kind of place. But I think Horde players will be very, very pleased with how lush the Horde neighborhood is. Like there's a lot of Ashara trees, there's coast, there's rivers, there's beautiful like levels and leaves and ponds and stuff like that. It looks really awesome. There is a dark kind of Forsaken-y bit.
Of course.
There is like a dusty, deserty bit in it as well. There is a lot of stuff that when we talk about the neighborhoods here that we can like observe, a lot of it is going to be kind of only observation, but we do have some specific information that we've got out of these interviews as well.
Okay. So my first question about these neighborhoods and your exteriors, how dense are they? Like, do you get a kind of a big plot? Do you get some houses like out in a farmyard, or are they all grouped together? How does that look?
Great question, because I had the exact same question. and it's actually really, really interesting. Some of these houses are quite secluded and out in a little corner somewhere. But the shot that is really exciting, I think, is what you might describe as the village square or whatever, where there are lots of houses quite densely packed together, actually. And like you really do have neighbors there. And when I talked to Jesse about that, he was like, yeah, this is absolutely intentional. You know, if you want a nice secluded hermit hut somewhere, you can. And if you want to be more in like the social hub of the neighborhood, you know, you can. I love that they've done that.
This is actually awesome because having neighbors maybe will be the some as a way to actually for people to actually socialize within WoW that like was never seen before because like why not? Like
Are there bigger and smaller plots? Because that's going to create some.
I mean, so it looks on this footage like some of them have a bit more outdoor space than others, but I don't think that's the intention. I think you're essentially going to have the amount, the standard amount of space outside to kind of place things. Inside doesn't matter, of course.
My understanding is that in this kind of like Alliance Elwyn style neighborhood, houses will have a similar vibe, more or less, and you'll be able to kind of customize them within that overall style. Or would I say be able to build like a Silver Moon style house, you know, within this neighborhood?
That was a question they wouldn't answer.
Oh.
But it's clear from the footage that, as suspected, no. Everything in this kind of Alliance neighborhood is going to be a human-style house, right? Like I say,
I've coherence.
Like
right?
I've seen like different kind of bell towers and stuff, and different chimneys and different roofs and things like that, and different like adornments outside. So I think there is going to be lots of customization that you can have from the footage that we've seen and that I've seen.
yeah, it's important to not make it too complicated because, like, one of the mistakes that they can do at release when it comes to housing is offering way too many options for to people. Like, this is actually good, and maybe in the future you get to have like more options, depending on how popular it is. But this is a good start.
Yes, there is a consistent look and style of the house, and that was the same in the render of the Horde. One that I saw too. Although I am looking at this right now, and there definitely does seem to be like a night elf themed kind of building in the corner there, doesn't there?
There does.
And that would appear to shit in the mouth of everything that I've just said about exterior buildings, wouldn't it?
So in this shot in particular, I spy something that looks like maybe a bit of a garden shed or maybe even a bit of a stable.
Yeah.
Was there any indication on those?
Very interesting. Obviously, there was a lot of questions about mounts and pets.
Stable. Like, can rethink about like how many fucked up looking mounts you have, and place them in Elwyn Forest. Like, you know, the fucking weirdo looking dragon or like the fucking mites that you fucking can mount. You put it in the stable right there, like just right there, like like. A lot of fun options to look really fucking weird, huh?
Pets,
absolutely,
and things like that.
They gotta live somewhere.
Exactly, and like devs have a way of confirming stuff without actually confirming stuff, or denying stuff without actually denying stuff. You know, they're very cagey, but you can usually glean what they mean. And yeah, obviously we're gonna have like a stable for mounts. When someone talked about placing, you know, pets like furniture sort of thing around the house, they just nodded very effusively, and they were like, yeah, we want your house to feel lived in. Bringing your space alive is something that they said quite a lot. I feel from their responses they definitely intend to allow pets walking around. And another thing I asked in the round table, can our alts be like furniture? So when you're on one character, you have like your alts wandering around as well.
Or just like sitting around a table.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Just moaning about how they're not being played.
And they were like, the response that I made out was just to pets walking around.
Yeah.
Was actually to my question about alts. And they were like, yeah, we want the space to feel lived in. Yeah. We don't want it to be a solid tableau.
The pets is,
you know,
pets
they
is
didn't
good.
say, yes, your alts will be able to walk around the home and you'll see them when you're on one character and they'll be there. But they said yes. So like I say, that might change, but they basically said yes.
Time to transmog all of my alts. Oh my god.
How exciting
right?
is that? Well, the thing is, right, so we now have clarification that there is, in fact, per account, there's one home that you can have which is Alliance and one home that you can have which is Horde.
Okay,
so like,
makes sense.
Your Alliance home is the home to all of your Alliance So it makes sense that they should be in there, inhabiting the space.
Absolutely. So we see loads of buildings kind of in this neighborhood, and presumably there'll be, player housing. Are any of those spaces meant to be communal spaces?
There was a guy there called Toby, and when he introduced himself, he's like, "Yo, I'm Toby. I make neighborhood content." And Jesse was like, "That's a spoiler, by the way."
Neighborhood content.
There is neighborhood content, and something that we all mentioned was like, is there going to be like communal space here? And again, whenever we asked anything about neighborhoods and how they work, basically, we were told that's something we're going to talk about later. But again, it definitely seems like that is going to be the case.
Okay.
I really hope that it's the case, because this will be a good way to actually make people socialize within the game, outside of like just walking around the main cities. Like, this will be actually really great, and it will be like in a environment atmosphere that is not like fucking like this just like overly toxic, but also overly like competitive, you know? Just people chilling, living, you know?
If it wasn't the case before, I think it's definitely going to be the case now, after everyone at the summit was like, "Can we have this, please?"
Please.
And I've got to say, it does certainly look that way from these shots here that we can see.
I mean, I imagine, particularly if you have like a guild neighborhood, a guild hall, right? Like we've kind of talked about this before in other videos and podcasts, like a hall where you as a guild like can congregate. Maybe you have some items related to like your guild achievements that you can put up in there, or raids or keys, but also like kind of more semi-open spaces like a tavern, just like a place where people could just wander in at any point and just feel a bit more communal, like a stage, a theater.
I completely agree. And like, so I think stuff like tavern, a stage, like a bandstand or something.
Bandstand.
Or even like an amphitheater or something like that, a dueling ring. All of these things I think would be tremendous to have. They didn't turn around and go, "No, that's not our plans at all." So it feels like that is something that on some level is going to happen. I asked Toby, "Are you planning on a seasonal approach to neighborhoods and neighborhood content?" And he was like, "Absolutely." So they are working hard with holiday teams and stuff like that. And it feels like, just going by what they said and what Jesse has said, that I've heard him say as well, it feels like there might be, for example, seasonal challenges and stuff like that. Like you can,
this is great.
Like, everyone in the neighborhood will get something really cool if, say, for example, everyone in the neighborhood puts a certain type of tree outside,
or does
at the same time, or something like that.
Some
yeah,
way.
Exactly.
This is really cool.
That's kind of like the idea that I kind of gathered from the very cagey responses people were giving.
I love the idea of kind of seasonal outdoor decor as well. Like people are going to love decorating their neighborhoods for Winter Veil. Communal spaces would be really appealing for guilds, for friends, for people who want to hang out. Role players, is absolute like paradise.
Okay, so role players is a thing I specifically asked about because obviously role-playing servers work on different rules to normal servers. They have slightly bigger shards, but they also have like quite strict rules on things like naming conventions and the way you interact with other players. And I was like, are you going to be mixing RP players with non-RP server players in neighborhoods, or will neighborhoods be kind of, the only people in this neighborhood are from RP servers? Because
this will be
otherwise
great.
you're going to have RP players coming into contact with players that don't have to follow certain naming restrictions for their characters, that don't have to follow certain restrictions with how they interact with other players and stuff like that. Jesse assured me that they are working hard on how they're approaching RP server neighborhoods, which definitely suggests that RP servers will have their own neighborhoods, and so all the rules of RP servers will apply within those neighborhoods.
That makes sense.
Something we do definitely know,
this is interesting.
There will be NPCs walking
I was
around
going to
as well.
ask.
Okay, so I mean, one thing that Jesse kind of mentioned in the PAX panel was this idea of, you can complete a quest, and that might result in the quest giver, if they're a certain vendor or something, becoming a fixture in your neighborhood.
Do you get the impression that there might be any kind of major lore characters who can hang out in your neighborhood? Like, could we have Xalatath,
It
literally
feels
just chilling
unlikely.
in the bar? Okay,
Yeah,
I figured it'll be more like minor characters, like, hey, I'm the blacksmith, I'm just chilling, right?
Exactly.
Okay, Callie, you have been extremely enthusiastic about player housing as a whole, about everything we've seen so far. I have to ask, is there anything that you came across that didn't really hit the mark for you or that let you down?
Yes. There's some concerns I do have. I think
That's
the
a good
system is
question.
incredible. And I want to make that very clear. One thing I noticed that was when I opened the inventory to see all the stuff that I can place within the room, there was a shop icon on the inventory, which I...
Okay, I will stop this right here. Blizzard is a company that actually need to make money to keep on growing. It's nothing like we are not living in a simulation. Hopefully we do, because if we do, I get to play video games for all eternity. But basically the shop option, it's normal. People do not care as much. I'm on the side of, please stop complaining about a game that costs basically zero. Do you understand how many fucking updates they have, how many fucking people they have? Please don't complain about a fucking shop option, especially for people that are just willing to spend some money, some extra money for some extra thing. And the only thing that I'll complain about when it comes to that is when it comes to shops. I saw this before. Please, the only thing that I'll complain about the shop in Blizzard is the fact that they don't do enough shop item selling related to charity. This is something that is actually should be more should be it was done and it was done multiple times, but I think that this should be a staple at this point, because people will buy and it will feel better for everyone. And but at the same time, yeah, the shop option, obviously there will be a shop option, obviously. Please, I hope he doesn't fucking go on a rant about it, because it's at this point, it's not your it's not that, it's really not that bad.
It wasn't functional, but which I had it confirmed to me is intended to link to the in-game store. Look, I'm not someone who rages about the in-game store or whatever. They are going to sell so much stuff on the store for this. But if this goes live, it would be the first direct button link to the in-game shop within the game's actual interface. Usually you have to go to your exit screen with the options, the edit mode, and you can click onto shop there, right? So you have to it's not integrated into an in-game UI.
Yeah.
So to open your inventory in the house, and obviously they want you to go oh, I need a thing, and you click on the shop, right? I think that's intrusive. I don't like it. I think it's a step too far. I don't know how much control they have over that, the devs we spoke to be perfectly honest. But what they did say was that they are taking the same philosophy with player housing items that they take with transmog and mounts, which basically means if something is a store item, it won't be the case that it's something that appears in game, and the store is another way of getting that.
Yeah.
It will be this is a store item. It's not you can't be bothered to get it in games, so you get it in the store thing. And that is an important differentiation.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew it was gonna happen, but actually having that confirmation doesn't feel so great.
The other thing that I didn't like was not something I saw, but something that was explained to me. I asked specifically, these zones, are you going to add new landmass to the in-game kind of map? Are they going to appear on the map? Will you be able to, for example, see it from Stormwind?
Right.
And it's not, for example, the way you currently get to Silvermoon, where you have to fly through a cave entrance this big to get into this whole zone. Yep. And they were well, you'll be able to see an abstraction of it. And I was will you be able to fly straight into it like you can with garrisons? And Jesse said, I don't know, TBC.
Okay.
When I asked in the round table, it felt much more likely that it's going to be like another loading screen to get into your neighborhood.
Okay.
Which, whatever,
Mm.
man.
Hey.
So that was like, even
That's
more than
not
the
too
shop, that
bad.
was like my biggest disappointment. And you know, it's not even made yet. The thing they're describing isn't even there.
So we've had a proper look now at the interiors of housing, the exteriors as well, a little bit about the neighborhoods and functionality there, seeing how things work, and even had a taste of Tally's own interior design ability.
This is what I managed to make, and I enjoyed every single second of it. And I can see myself tinkering with player housing literally forever. Like, it's going to be one of those things where, you know, sometimes you just might want to change your style. You might just enjoy the gameplay of putting this stuff together. You might want to like redesign an entire space around a cool new thing that you've collected.
Yeah, if he can do that, like I'm pretty excited to see also like the community aspect of people like just sharing what they built with their player housing. This is a side of video games that like a lot of people cannot miss, but for me it's always an enjoyment because like I follow I follow what the community does, and it will be an enjoyment to actually like see what cool things people can create and what beautiful things they can create for their housing.
Absolutely.
You know,
Because at the end of the day, it's an artistic exercise, and this is actually good, really good for health.
think if they weren't planning it before, I think I've definitely convinced the team to award literal trophies for certain things like Gladiator and like Keystone Legends, stuff like that.
If you can have like a cool mount,
like a literal,
you should have a trophy.
Exactly,
right?
a literal trophy which you can then put and display in like a trophy cabinet or a shelf or something like that. So yeah, you might get your Gladiator trophy and you want to display that in your house, and so it's like, oh, I need new. I've got.
Yeah, or like basically a tablet with like an achievement, and you can choose the achievement, and when you put your mouse over it, right, you get to see what achievement you are exposing. That could be cool.
So many trophies now. I now gotta.
If I had one of those, my house would literally just be a room with like a giant trophy.
Well, that's exactly what I said. I was like, look, I've only got one. Can I just make it really big?
Huge. Yeah.
I think there is content here to the level that anyone wants it. And that's why I think it's so brilliant. I think there's enough here for people who don't care about housing to engage with it in a completely minimal way and still enjoy it. I think more importantly, there is room for people to just sink themselves into this completely. I cannot explain properly how good I think this is. I'm genuinely blown away by it. I think it's magical. I loved seeing what everyone had done within the space that we saw. I can't wait to see some of the incredible things that the community does with this. Interactive things, but also just really imaginative spaces and communal things.
I was really excited at the idea of player housing and like the whole concept. And it's kind of amazing now seeing things that I was hoping for, my expectations being met, but also kind of wildly exceeded. That's really exciting. Seeing the actual like style templates being there is really promising and really cool. All in all, it looks incredible, and I'm really excited to give it a go.
I've said in this video, if you were looking forward to player housing, I don't think there's anything here that you will actually be disappointed with in terms of the interiors and the decor and stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong though. If there is something that you are disappointed by and that you think is failing in some way, let us know in the comments below. And if there's something that you've seen here which you're super excited about, let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks,
if you like
guys.
this video, don't thank us. Thank Blizzard, who allowed us to come out and play all this and see it for ourselves.
Excuse me, us, you.
Yeah, it's true. Thank our
Okay, so this was, thank you so much, Talisin in Evital. Let me just check what the fuck they do usually. Like player housing, Soul Saga. So yeah, it's interesting. Okay, subscribe to Talisin and Evital. This was actually like quite a fucking great video. Talks about player housing. Nothing more much to say. Like, I'm excited to see this. I'm just excited to see uh player housing, but also like how the community reacts to it, what will happen after that, and how the game will go from there. Because as I said, like player housing will be able to connect every expansions original WoW, so Azeroth WoW, to the latest expansion together. And this is what is really revolutionary. And also like this the social aspect, because like the neighborhoods is something that I didn't thought about, but like if you get to have a neighborhood, this is actually really good because people will get a reason to socialize. They'll have neighbors and they'll talk to them, like they'll have like reasons to fucking like get into that, like get into like trying to socialize, trying to make friends, and outside of bashing themselves in competitive content and being angry and stressed out all the time. So yeah, this will be great. I'm really excited for like player housing.